Imagine walking into the Palace of Versailles. Picture the gilded halls, the glittering chandeliers, and enough silk and satin to wrap the globe twice. Now take a deep breath. Instead of the scent of roses or fine perfume, you're hit with a stench so foul it could make you gag. This isn't a scene from a horror movie. This was the brutal reality of life at the height of French royal power. For all their jewels and titles, royal women endured a hygiene nightmare that you have to hear to believe. We're not just talking about being a little dirty. We're talking about a culture where filth and elegance went hand in hand. How did the most powerful, fashionable women in the world live like this? And what does it reveal about our own modern obsessions? The scent of power today, we see bathing as a fundamental part of cleanliness. But in 17th century France, it was a rare and even dangerous act. Doctors of the time believed that warm water opened up your pores, making you vulnerable to diseases lurking in the air. Adding to this fear was the church, which viewed public baths as dens of vanity and temptation. As a result, an entire culture turned its back on water. Royal women didn't have private showers or baths. Instead, they would use a damp cloth, often moistened with vinegar or saliva, to wipe their hands and faces. When a full bath did happen, which was rare, it was often a communal affair. Families would share the same tub, with men bathing first. By the time a royal woman got her turn, the water was often lukewarm, murky, and filled with residue. The consequence of this was an overpowering stench that visitors to Versailles couldn't help but notice. A mix of old perfume, body odor, and mildew. The irony was cruel. These women were paragons of beauty on the outside, wrapped in silk and powdered to perfection, but had skin that hadn't seen soap in months. The secret world of waste. The Palace of Versailles was a marvel of architecture and luxury, but it had a dirty secret. It was built with almost no proper toilets. With thousands of guests and hundreds of rooms, the court relied on chamber pots, small portable bowls placed under beds or in closets. After use, the contents were often simply tossed out the nearest window, with no regard for who or what was below. It got so bad that courtiers were known to relieve themselves in the palace gardens and corridors. Imagine being a lady in waiting, carefully lifting your elaborate gown not just to show off the embroidery, but to avoid stepping in human waste. The problem was so widespread that in 1715, a royal decree had to be issued ordering the palace corridors to be cleaned once a week. That was considered an improvement. And if you're wondering about toilet paper, it didn't exist. People used cloth scraps, leaves, or their own hands. With waste thrown out windows and minimal cleaning, it's no wonder parasites and diseases ran rampant. The hair-raising truth in Versailles, a woman's hair was her crown. But it was also a hive of horror. Hairstyles were not just hairdos. They were towering architectural achievements adorned with everything from pearls to miniature ships. To achieve this scale, women's hair was stuffed with wireframes and padding and then coated in pomade made from animal fat. This grease created a perfect home for lice, and since women almost never washed their hair or removed their elaborate wigs for cleaning, infestations were not just common, they were expected. Noble women used special, long-handled silver lice claws to discreetly scratch their itchy scalps without ruining their appearance. These ornate tools were often brought to social events and dinners, where a woman might pause between sips of wine to give her head a quick scratch. In a world where appearance was power, a crawling scalp was a small price to pay. For poor women, the solution was simple. They shaved their heads to avoid lice. But for royal women, the show had to go on. The banquet's hidden horrors. Royal banquets were legendary, with tables groaning under the weight of roasted pheasants and sugared fruits. But a dark reality lurked behind the luxury. The palace's poor plumbing system meant that raw sewage would sometimes back up into the cooking areas. It's even been reported that wastewater reached Queen Marie Antoinette's private kitchen. Without refrigeration or proper waste removal, contamination was a constant threat. Meat spoiled quickly and pests roamed freely. The consequences were stomach-churning. Gastrointestinal distress was rampant, and courtiers were frequently infected with parasites like tapeworms from undercooked meat. Even the mighty Louis XIV was not immune. He reportedly passed a 6-inch-long tapeworm. The ultimate public performance for royal women, the most intimate moment of their lives, was also a national spectacle. Childbirth. When a queen or noblewoman went into labor, the delivery room would be filled with an audience of courtiers, doctors, and priests. They weren't there to assist, but to watch. This bizarre tradition was meant to prevent the swapping of a stillborn or female baby for a healthy male heir. The mother, in excruciating pain, was surrounded by a crowd in a room so packed it resembled a theatre. Queen Marie Antoinette famously passed out during childbirth because of the oppressive heat and overwhelming crowd. It was a performance with immense physical and emotional stakes. With limited medical knowledge and no antibiotics, 1 in 3 children died before the age of 3, and mothers faced high mortality rates from infections. While the public saw a national celebration, the women themselves endured immense fear and suffering. The unseen sufferings. The life of a royal woman was a constant battle between public perfection and private misery. Beneath the glittering gowns and perfumed halls, they faced a daily reality of discomfort and indignity that history often forgets to mention. They lived with the constant risk of disease from poor sanitation and unsanitary food. They endured the physical and psychological toll of wearing towering, lice-infested wigs. This was a world where a woman's value was tied directly to her appearance and her ability to produce an heir. They were expected to be paragons of beauty and grace while enduring conditions that would make most modern people squirm. Their privilege did not grant them immunity from physical suffering. In fact, in some cases, it made their lives even more constrained. The gilded cage was a very real trap, a matter of appearance. So why did they do it? Why did these women endure such grotesque conditions? Because for them, appearance was everything. The rigid social hierarchy of the court meant that to appear out of fashion or poorly dressed was to risk losing status and power. They were willing to suffer through lice, filth, and pain because the alternative was social ruin. They understood that their worth was determined by how they were seen, not how they truly felt. It was the very definition of looking good from afar, and far from good up close. Lessons from a filthy past. The story of these royal women is a powerful reminder that history is far messier and more human than the polished versions we often see. It teaches us that glamour is often an illusion, and the most powerful people are not always the most comfortable. It also makes us question our own modern rituals. We may not have lice claws or communal baths, but what discomforts do we endure today for the sake of appearance or social status? The final thought. The real story of royal life isn't just about balls and banquets. It's about a reality that was, at its core, downright filthy. It's a testament to the human spirit's ability to endure, and a stark reminder that sometimes the most elegant history is also the most shocking.